For the last couple of weeks, we've been studying the book of Haggai. Zerubbabel, Joshua the priest, and the people who came back from exile began to build the temple of the Lord by decree of Cyrus, the king of Persia. The first temple is sometimes referred to as Solomon's temple, while the second temple is referred as Zerubbabel's temple. The building project began when they came back, but was on hold for 16 years because of the opposition of Samaritans. That's when the Lord spoke through prophet Haggai, urging them to build the temple of the Lord. And the people, hearing the words of prophet Haggai, went back to building the temple of the Lord that was on hold for last 16 years. And last week, we've seen how God encouraged the Jews, saying, "Be strong and do not fear." And as recorded in the book of Ezra, we see God's helping hand through King Darius of Persia. Let's continue on with our studies of the book of Haggai. And our text this afternoon comes from Haggai chapter 2, verse 10 to 19. On the 24th day of the 9th month, in the second year of Darius, the word of the Lord came to prophet Haggai. This is what the Lord Almighty said: Ask the prophets, or ask the priest, what the law says. If a person carries consecrated meat in the fold of his garment, and the fold touches some bread or stew, some wine or oil or other food, does it become consecrated? The priest answered, no. Then Haggai said, if a person defiled by contact with a dead body touches one of these things, does it become defiled? Yes. Priest replied, it becomes defiled. Then Haggai says, so it is with the people and this nation in my sight, declares the Lord. Whatever they do and whatever they offer, there is defiled. Now give careful thoughts to this from the day on. Consider how things were before one stone was laid on another in the Lord's temple. When everyone came to a heap of 20 measures, there was only 10. When anyone went to a wine vat to draw 50 measures, there was only 20. I struck all the work of your hands with the blight, mildew, and hail, yet you did not turn to me, declares the Lord. From this day on, from this 24th day of the ninth month, give careful thought to the day when the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid. Give careful thought. Is there yet any other seed left in the barn? Until now, the vine and the fig trees and pomegranate and the olive tree have not borne fruit. From this day on, I will bless you. Amen. The verse 10 of today's text reads, on the 24th day of the 9th month, in the second year of Darius, when Zerubbabel, Joshua, and people came back to build the temple of the Lord, it was the 24th day of the 6th month on the second year of King Darius. So today's text is just about 3 months after the construction of the Lord began once again. When God encouraged the people in the previous week's verse, saying, be strong and do not fear, it was on the 21st day of the 7th month of the second year of King Darius. So today's text is not long after they received a decree from Darius the Persian and began to work hard to construct the temple of God. Zerubbabel, Joshua the priest, and the people had to be very surprised at the decree of King Darius. They returned to the building project when hearing from prophet Haggai, but Tatnai asked for the name of the person who was in charge, and they weren't able to give Tatnai the clear answer. Sure, the work did not stop, but the governor sent his letter to King Darius of the Persian king, and inquire of what he should do. And the Jews had to worry of what kind of verdict that they would get from Persia. When they heard the decree from Darius, they had to admit that God's hand was upon it, that God was working through Darius. Darius instructed not only the construction of the temple be continued, but he took care of Samaritan's opposition threat, and he funded the building project through the revenues from Trans-Euphrates, and he commanded the building project would not be hesitated. Last week, one of the verses that we looked at was when God said, the gold is mine and the silver is mine. The silver is mine and gold is mine. God sure provided the fund for the building project, which is a huge part of the project. And God sure showed himself as the one who is in charge of the finance, who is in charge of gold and silver. The building project picked up its steam thanks to the decrees of Darius. The building project made progress, amazing progress, and according to Ezra chapter 6, the project was completed on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, that is the 12th month of the 6th year of Darius, meaning the building project took a little more than 4 years, just a little bit about 4.5 years for it to complete. And that tells you how hard they worked for that building of the temple. And God spoke through Prophet Haggai to people who resumed the building project. In today's text, there are 2 questions to priests regarding the law. The first has to do with the consecration. Look at verse 12. If a person carries consecrated meat in the fold of his garment, and the fold touches some bread or stew, some wine or oil or other food, does it become consecrated? And priest's answer was no. It does not become consecrated, become holy. The second question is followed in verse 13. If a person defiled by contact with the dead bodies. See, in the Old Testament, if you touch a dead person, then you are considered ceremonially defiled. If a person defiled by contact with a dead body touches one of these things, does it become defiled? If the person is defiled because he touched the dead body and he touches something else, other things, do they become defiled? And the priest's answer was yes. It becomes defiled. It becomes defiled. A garment of a consecrated meat will not cause others to become consecrated or be holy, while the things defiled person touches will become defiled. Will become defiled. Now, what is the point of these questions? What is God trying to say? See, Jews are making their efforts and are making progress with the construction of the temple. The temple that they're building will become holy, consecrated temple where God will dwell. God already said, I will fill my glory. I fill this house with glory. And he already said the glory of this present house, the one that they're building, will be greater than the glory of the former house, Solomon's temple. And he also said, he will do mighty things. He will shake the earth. He will shake the oceans. He will shake the skies. He will shake all nations. So God will do mighty things through the temple. The temple will be filled with the glory. The temple that mighty God works will be a consecrated, a holy temple. This building project is holy, godly, and consecrated work of the Lord. But the problem is, this consecrated work will not consecrate the workers. This consecrated work will not consecrate the workers, just as the garment that wraps the meat, the consecrated meat, will not consecrate things it touches. And since they are not consecrated, but rather are defiled, everything that they touch, their livelihood, their agricultural work, their farming, everything that they touch, everything that they do becomes defiled, unable to receive the blessings of God. That's the reason for the agricultural disasters listed in verse 16 to 19. You see, you are not consecrated simply because you are involved with the building project. Just because a temple, or at least the building project was in the middle of them, that doesn't mean you are consecrated. No. You are not consecrated simply because you have this word is with you, or you carry the word. You're not consecrated. You're not consecrated simply because you have this title of being the holy people, chosen nation. They've seen that from their ancestors. You're not consecrated even for the devotions or giving much offering. If it was so, then the Pharisees would be the most holy and consecrated people of all. You see, the consecration or the holiness is achieved through the pure faith in God, and also the complete obedience to the words of God. Yes, pure faith in God and complete obedience to the words of God. The verse 14 of today's text reads, "So it is with these people and this nation in my sight, declares the Lord, whatever they do, in order whatever they offer, there is defiled, for they themselves are not consecrated." Yes, Jews were making efforts in building project. They were making progress in building project, but they have not given themselves fully to the Lord. They have not considered, they have not consecrated themselves before the Lord. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the reasons of God commanding them to build the temple. Wasn't it to restore people to God? Yes. Wasn't it to build God-centered community? Wasn't it to restore them as a covenant people? In other words, it was to restore them as consecrated people of God, a holy people and a holy nation. That was the purpose of God commanding them to build a temple. But all they focused and concentrated on was the building project. Sure, the temple is important, but what they ought to focus more was a consecrated life, holy and blameless life. a pure faith in God and the complete obedience to the words of God. That's what they should have focused and concentrated on. If the temple of the Lord were to be built without them having been consecrated to God, how would they be any different than their ancestors? They will follow the footsteps of their ancestors, leading directly to destruction once again. Now, I'm wondering if there are anyone among us that think like the Jews who are building the temple of the Lord. We believe in Jesus Christ. We worship God. Good. We come to church Sunday. We come to church every Sunday. Good. Serving where we can. And we give as much as we can, sometimes even more than we can. But somehow, our lives are not much different than that of the world, that of the non-believers. Our lives are not separated from the ways and the patterns of this world. Sure, worship is important. Keeping Sunday is important. Serving Him and giving are very important. But as we worship, as you attend churches on Sunday, as you serve and give, we need to focus, we need to concentrate on being consecrated to God, being holy people, separated from the world, ways of the world. You know, the term Sunday Christian, seeking God only on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. That we should not be. We must live as consecrated believers of Jesus Christ. Our back to the world, facing God and walking toward God every single days of our lives. You know, one of the greatest problems of our society in this 2023 is that there is almost no difference in the lives of believers and the lives of non-believers. Between the believers and non-believers, there's almost no difference and distinction, that you can't tell whether someone is a believer or non-believer. In John chapter 14, Jesus says this, I have given them your word and your world, I have given them your word and the world has hated them. Ooh. I have given them your word and the world has hated them. For they are not of the world any more than I am of the world. He says, those who believe in him and those who have received his word are not of the world. But too many believers are living as if they belong to the world, as if they are of this world. And our Lord Jesus said the world will hate them, but too many believers are trying best not to be hated by the world or even to be accepted by the world. So they live as they are of this world. A few days ago, a debate between Ron DeSantis of Florida versus Gavin Newsom of California took place. They labeled it as red state versus blue state. Many of you might have heard of it or even watched the debate. Florida and DeSantis are are conservative in their views, in their stance, while California and Newsom is leading the nation in very liberal policies. Now, what was clear in debate was the two men stands very far at the end of ideology, opposite end of ideology in many issues. One of the heated topics of the debate was in topic of abortion. Florida currently has a 6 weeks restriction on abortion. California, on the other hand, is legal until fertile viability, meaning, according to a website, fertile viability occurs at the point at which fetus can survive outside the womb. Fetus can survive outside the womb. Now, I thought a fetus outside of the womb is called the baby. Fetus outside the womb is called a baby. In fact, fetus is a Latin word for baby. But they don't want to call it baby because they feel so guilty and they feel bad. So they refer to it as a fetus. Okay, so we'll call it fetus. But it's baby. But anyway, that fetal viability happens generally around 24 weeks, according to websites. Now, what this means is this: if a doctor determines that baby in a womb would not survive for one reason or another, any absurd reason, then abortion will be possible up to the point of birth. What if mom goes, okay, I decide not to? What if in the middle of the pregnancy a guy walks out, and the girl is devastated? The guy walked out because I don't think I can support the baby. There was a baby for any reason. What is scarier is states like Alaska, Colorado, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, D.C., though Washington, D.C. is not a state. They have no limit. They can kill the baby inside the womb up to the point of death. Some states have abortion limits such as 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 13, 15, 18, 22, 24 weeks. But let me say that a little bit differently. If you turn it around and say that a little differently, you can kill the baby inside the woman before 6 weeks happens, before 12 weeks, before 13 weeks, 15 weeks, 22 weeks, 18 weeks, 22 weeks, 24 weeks. You can kill that baby in there. For some states, you can kill the baby just moments before the birth. Now, why am I saying this? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is a conservative Christian, without a doubt. He's a great guy, conservative Christian without a doubt. But he does not go all the way to complete ban of abortion, as some states have done. He's arguing with Newsom whether to kill baby before 6 weeks or before 24 weeks. It is killing a baby. Is it okay to kill baby before 6 weeks? But it's not okay to kill after 6 weeks? Why can't people say killing babies is wrong? And then we'll ban it completely. I understand he's a politician and he needs to vote. He doesn't want to be hated by majority of the people, a lot of people. I understand as a politician he has to take moderate stands in this. The modern stance is 6 weeks. And the 6 weeks, a lot better than 24 weeks, or even up to the point of birth. 100 times better. One of the saddest things that we see in this country is believers are not much different than the non-believers in our beliefs and in the way that we live our lives. In our verse 19 of today's text reads, "From this day on, I will bless you." Now this is a promise of God for those who hear the voice of God, who hear the words of God, and who commit to be obedient to word. This is a promise of God for those who commit to life consecrated, life of holiness. This is a promise of God for those who hear the words of God and making that commitment to be different from the world. This is a promise of God for they might have lived their lives according to their own strength and desire, but now decide to trust the grace of God. This is a promise of God for those who might have taken the ownership of their own lives and live accordingly, but now are surrendering their lives to God and His leading and His guidance. How is your 2023? How is your life in 2023? Did you make efforts to be different from the world, to be holy and to be consecrated? Did you make efforts to live life according to grace, not on your own strength and might? Did you make effort to follow His leading, His guidance, moment by moment? If not, make that decision. Make that commitment today to be consecrated, to live according to His grace, and to be led by Him step by step. You know, we are children of God through faith in Jesus Christ. We are not of this world, as Jesus said in John chapter 14. We are the people with God's promise, saying, "From this day on, I will bless you." Live as such. Make the decisions to be consecrated, to be separate from the world.